Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are casting a game of Dominions 5, and we are doing it with Sy.
Hello, I'm Sy. I like playing Dominions and talking about it.
All right, and let's talk. In our last episode, we introduced this game, this Hydra game, where we have 2 players per nation, and we went over all the nations. Almost everybody sent us their builds, and we talked about them, and then we looked at the nations that didn't send us their builds, and we figured those out, and we talked about those too. And so this is still turn 3, and this is the first turn of expansion. So we're going to go ahead and look at all the nations and see how their expansion went. So I guess let's start. We have Arco selected here. Let's start here. Arco got the shipwreckers, and they just expanded with the shipwreckers, and they were pretty bold. They just went for a heavy calf province right off the bat.
And it makes sense to do that too, because with their starting army, they have a natural lance screen, so they can use those cheap peltasts in order to preserve the war shamblers, so that when they start going for those aquatic provinces, their shamblers are still in a good state.
Yeah,
Although,
a
I
little too far back, I think. Right?
yes, it looks like the shamblers actually wound up catching the lances themselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, no disaster because they did get a great surround, and the shamblers are pretty resilient. Also, their coral cuirasses. Oh, no, never mind. These don't have the spines. It's only the commander that has those.
Oh, the poison barb thing.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
going to say that the hoof attacks from cavalry are particularly vulnerable to those, but with these guys, it's just the glaives that have that poison damage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Um,
only a slight kind of misalignment there on the starting position, and it. They didn't. I don't think I saw any die on the lance charge, but some of them got beat up enough that I just saw like one get picked off by a crossbow. Right, so he does lose. I think 3 of them in this battle.
yeah, the surround was good though, so he
Yeah,
was able to kill everything pretty quickly.
for sure. How many? The war shamblers are so strong. You kind of want to end up with like at least 15 when you're going underwater, right?
In LA, underwater provinces are actually easier than other eras because amber clans and shark tribes have become more rare, and you're
Hmm.
left with more of the easier
More of the
ones,
easier
like the
ones.
yeah, like the mermen.
Okay. And it looks like he's recruited slingers, a war elephant. He's got his awake researcher. And if we take just a brief look, we've got his cap circle is heavy cav. He had heavy cav here, crossbows and heavy infantry. Heavy infantry and light, and then heavy infantry and crossbows. So no like lucky easy provinces in his cap circle.
I will say this though, the
Mhm.
farm that he's adjacent to is one of the easier indie types for a farm. On that his war shamblers are adjacent to.
Oh, this one
Um,
here.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
also a contested province between him and Midgard. So he's going for that first, and intentionally so, because that
Because
also
then
is
he'll
going to give.
go under for the war shamblers, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's actually going to be getting a lot out of this because his expansion party not only gets those underwater provinces, which he has reason to believe aren't going to be contested because he's the only one with these amphibious mercenaries,
Yep.
he also gets to take a contested farm province on his way there.
All right. Great start for Arco. Let's go west, I guess, to Midgard since we just mentioned him. Uh, Midgard has expanded with Huskarls, and he ended up with Cloud Mages, which he wouldn't have seen, right? He wouldn't. This guy usually is Where's the Cloud Mage?
So the Cloud Mage is not glamored.
Oh, it's not the
Um,
ones I thought. It's not the Azure Initiates, but
it's the illusionists,
yeah,
you
yeah, the
know.
Illusionists. Yeah,
Yeah, but you might not see them in the report since it's only one mage.
yeah. We actually have the Prophet here, and just as a reminder, this is an Elf Bless. Oh, we didn't have the details of it, so it's attack, magic weapons, decay weapons, shock resistance, cold resistance, blood surge, larger.
I'm not a fan of the decay weapons on the elves,
I
at least not
agree.
in the same way that I am on TNG, where you have that on bows and on ghosts, which otherwise aren't going to be doing a lot of damage. Generally speaking, if your elf is in melee with something, you want it to die. You don't want it to
Yeah.
die at the end of the battlefield
Oh,
or start trickling down or anything like that.
oh. Incidentally, I realized because we just recorded this, but for you guys, this might have been a couple days since the last episode. When I mentioned my TNT build, I went with death weapons, not decay weapons.
Oh,
I
I
went all the way.
misunderstood.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
went
you
all
went
the way.
the real death weapons.
Yeah, the
Okay.
real death weapons,
Yeah.
which are really amazing actually on that chassis. But anyways, these elves are taking withering weapons. Questionable. We're both thinking that's questionable.
I think that it's a case of they had the death points and they didn't want to take undying or undead leadership.
Yeah, fair
Both of
enough.
which I actually think are okay
I
on
Sure.
Midgard.
Like, why not undying on elves, right? Like, it's like you finally get a hit in through their defenses, and now they're at -2, and you still got to hit them again, right?
And also the like having just a little bit of undead leadership, just 1 point for that +20 is really great for moving around corpse constructs, which you're going to be getting in large quantities. And it also means that you can lead storm demons more easily once you start producing those.
So it looks like they were just expanding with their starting army, which is Huskulls are actually just very good, so good for them. And they're recruiting Cap Sacreds, which presumably they'll start expanding with next turn. Anything notable here? They got Hoburgs, Heavy Cav.
Hobart crossbows are fantastic.
Yep, I love them. So
It's
crossbows
also
and Heavy
worth
Cav. Oh, go ahead.
noting, I think that Midgard has a lot of farms, like a lot of farms.
Except,
They're
well,
going.
it's Farm Mountain. There's Farm here, but there's 2 over here. Yeah. I mean, although, like, the thing is, all of these, like, this farm is Midgard's, but it's also Kalem's, right? And this one is kind of also Patala's, right? So it'll be interesting. There's a lot of contested farms, right, on the second ring in all of
That's
these
true.
capitals.
Yeah, the one immediately to their south is for sure just
Yeah,
theirs.
for sure, just theirs. And it's actually a really nice province. It's 1450. So Hoburgs, crossbows, but crossbows and heavy cav. So depending on the scouting reports, like this looks tiny, but sometimes the scouts can lie, right? So it's always scary going into a heavy cav province. But
You
doesn't
can
seem.
cheese them with veneer, though. You can put your so he was using a van here, says the starting commander there. So you have your vans on bodyguard. The van here's on like a self buff and then attack rear. And then you can use like a cheap basically any unit. Like you can use either whatever your cheapest Tuscarl or an indie infantry once you lose them as like a bait unit. So the cavalry latch onto that. And then once the heavy cavalry are busy killing that, you go in the back and kill all the commanders.
Yeah, and
And
you should kill them before the heavy cav loop around to kill you.
yeah, because veneer are so fast, it's actually extremely reliable.
All right. So that's it for Midgard. Let's go left to Patala. So Patala, if you recall, has taken an awake Devi. Let's take a look at her.
The overly attached girlfriend.
The Devi of Darkness. So this is Earth 4, Blood 4. It naturally comes with Fear 10 and the Reinvig is part of it. The Bless here is Reinvig and Blood Surge. So this gives her like a natural protection of a total protection of 17 with the +4 from the earth.
She's also fatigue neutral even before blood surge.
Which is good. Like I like this kind of easy, kind of cheap build because later you can put a lot of weapons, which you don't think of it, but like that's going to drain your fatigue a lot, especially if you are thinking you're clever. Oh yeah, I'm going to quickness and then 3 attacks, like 6 attacks per turn, but they'll fatigue out.
You
pretty
don't
fast.
actually get extra fatigue from more attacks, only from quickness.
Oh, I thought if you had 4 attacks per turn.
It's per round of melee combat, so only quickness increases that.
Well, there you go. Now we know. All right, with Blood Surge, she's got decent stats: 17 and 16 attacks and 15 defense. And
the trident is a length 4, so she can actually repel even spears.
Yeah, this is a great. This is actually a great. Like, obviously, you don't want to run into heavy cav with this, but this is fantastic to expand into like infantries. And, archers aren't going to, first of all, they're barely going to hit 17 protection, but it's not going to rout this. So this is a really nice way to get some extra early provinces. Now, that being said, on the map, they actually successfully expanded here too. Ooh, but they lost 2/3
They
of the
lost their
elephants.
elephants. Yeah.
So they went into the cave with Bakemono Show. And let's see what they're set up with. They've got their Atavi and they got the Marcata out front. And this is their profit.
So it's interesting to note that they are not using a morale, or that they are using only these two Atavi infantry as a morale anchor.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge with that is that the Atavi have only 8 base morale, and their range attack is also it's got like a relatively short range, so it's relatively easy for this squad to actually break.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And then the
but
other,
I don't think the problem here was the morale breaking, right? I think the problem
yeah,
is that
they did just actually die.
they just
Yeah,
got, yeah.
yeah, Bakemono are no joke. 15 damage, 6 per square. These guys hit hard.
Yeah, I think this is just like the wrong choice of indie type to go into with elephants. Now, that being said, did they have a better choice?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
elephants are actually one of the better things to kill that because they're squishing 6 per square. So it's got its
Yeah.
ups and
It's a
downs.
trade-off, right? Yeah. I
Yeah,
guess.
often when you go for this type
Mhm.
of province, you want them to be engaged on something first. So you want some sort of heavy infantry that like stands there, and then the elephants to come in and smush them, just so that they're not getting completely surrounded.
Would you sacrifice the Atavis here to engage first and then have
Absolutely,
the
yeah,
elephants,
any
right?
day. Yeah, the
I think
Atavis exist to be a
exact.
screen.
Yeah. So this is unfortunate because he has garbage scales. Not that even with good scales he couldn't, but he only has another elephant now, right?
That might have
So
even been the one that retreated.
oh yeah, you're right. He doesn't even have any elephants. So because he went like Bandar warriors. Okay, so that's the elephant that retreated. So that's unfortunate because that's like 200 gold that he's not getting back. If those elephants had survived, okay, heavy calf maybe not.
He could take the Pale One province, I think.
Yeah. Well,
I
not
mean,
now,
it's
but
not great,
yeah.
but
And let's see, what about the Devi? Does the Devi have a place? Oh, yeah. Well, he doesn't know it's Azure Initiates, but not knowing it's Azure Initiates, militias and light infantry is definitely something this god could take. Although, would you? So I think so, but I don't think you need your god to go into your dominion. This particular build doesn't need like it's blessed to kill some infantry.
yeah, not with this build, no.
Is my feeling. Would you go into Vineman?
Yeah, I think that the Vinemen are relatively safe, just because they're not going to do enough damage because they have very low attack.
Mm-hmm.
And so just the defense, even though you can't repel them because of their 50 morale, you can still just like dodge enough of their attacks, and the Woodman blowpipes don't hurt your god at all.
Mm-hmm. And here, light infantries with crossbow, conceivable. And would you go after the undead?
No. So the undead are kind of the worst of both worlds because
Mm-hmm.
that province type can actually have lancers, the pale rider guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any long dead horse. So with our perfect scouting, I would say that's probably safe. But without that, I wouldn't risk it.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Davy might actually have map move enough. How much map move does it have? Because I'm wondering if it 22. Because it might also be able to strike here. Anyways, there's still options. So this is a
Oh
looking
yeah,
good so
yeah,
far
it
for
could
Pata.
go across the cap, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't like send it to barbarians or heavy cavalry for sure.
No. So unfortunately, not perfectly played with the elephants. So this squad can't. I don't know. I don't think this squad can do anything.
No, it goes back to the
It
cap
has
to
to go
re-up.
back, and unfortunately, because this is barbs, I don't think you can combine and go into here against barbs.
I mean, barbarians are relatively weak to ranged attacks, but not
There's not
these
enough.
ranged
Yeah,
attacks. Yeah.
exactly. There's not enough of these. Yeah. Okay, so unfortunate on this side, but they still have the Devi, so good luck to them next turn.
I suspect
Go
that
ahead.
they're going to send it into the Azure Initiate province.
Yeah, I mean, because they don't know it's Azure Initiates, right? They just see like militia and light infantry. They're like, ooh.
Is that the one that comes with a Jotun Axeman?
The Azure Initiates?
Yeah, I know that one of the Azure provinces is like one Azure Initiate and a single Jotun Axeman.
I do not know.
Might not be that,
I
but
don't know.
it's one of those weird Illwinter
Yeah.
provinces where they have a very specific province set.
Well, we might find out next turn if Boogers decides, if Patala decides to send their gods south. Okay, Vedheim expanded to the south, and they fought, just light infantry and militia, and they just went out with Wolf Brothers, which they mentioned they were going to expand with Wolf Brothers, which are these guys. Size 2, 8 hit points with 2 attacks.
Yeah, they're decent attack rear cavalry, in part just because of their attack density and speed. So they can actually get to the back lines, and then because they're 6 attacks per square, they can actually kill stuff pretty well.
Yeah, including in this case, right? Importantly, because they're stuck with the archers, that high attack density allows them to kill that squad in like 2 or 3 rounds before they start taking casualties on their front line. But this was such easy indies. Not surprised they won.
The other nice thing is that against essentially any indie type with archers, the attack archers command is going to very reliably get you to the back.
Yes, and honestly, it's just good anyways because like a lot of Vedi's stuff is gonna die to archers, right? Like unless it's your sacreds, but you're not recruiting sacreds early because they don't do so well in the heat in the summer for early expansion. But yeah, so solid move. Let's take a quick look at their cap circle. I don't no heavy cap. This is a pretty easy cap circle.
Not only is it no heavy cav, they actually have like a couple archer provinces, like not
Yeah,
even crossbows,
not
but
even
regular archers.
crossbows. So they got a really nice cap circle.
They
Good
also
for
have a
them.
farm cluster. So, like, in addition to the farm to their northeast, there is 2 farms immediately adjacent to that. So, if they go directly into that, they can get a ton of money, and they can fort that that farm mountain, which is a large province between them and Ulm. And that's going to be a really high value point to hold, both because it lets you get a fort up immediately next to the throne, and allows you to defend from within Ulm's cap circle. So that's a great launching point if you want to fight Ulm later or defend yourself against Ulm.
And this is a 15k pop. This is a 16k pop, and this one over here is a 24k pop. These are crazy provinces. This is an incredibly valuable geographical area here. So good for them. A nice start for Vedi. And I think they're just recruiting Wolf Brothers. Honestly, they can go anywhere. They've got such easy indies all around. Still no heavy cav.
I see that they went for that forest to their south first, so they might be able to use some foreign recruitment to get even more stuff there, or possibly even send their first mage recruit down there to drop a lab.
Yeah, for sure. Vedheim has a lot of indie recruit troops and commanders, so that actually makes a lot of sense as your first target because they have pretty high order scales. They'll have enough money to make use of this. All right, that is it for this row. Let's shift up one. I guess let's go to Tianqi. Tianqi has they did use some ancestor vessels here. So we talked about their build last time. Let's take a look at it again. Remind ourselves they have magic weapons, poison, HP, and strength. We think this is probably a dormant Titan.
What I would be running here, at least with that particular bless.
Honestly, ancestor vessels. Like 3 ancestor vessels could have killed this without any of the other troops. Here they happen to have the other troops, so good for them. This is very easy type. Now, ancestor vessels are tricky to script. Archer cavalry is tricky because sometimes they don't do what you think they're going to do. Like they run in, they start attacking, but then when the squad they're attacking retreats, they will start to shoot again
Instead of doing more melee. Yeah.
instead of doing more melee. So it can be tricky to get them to do exactly what you do, or exactly what you want, or rather, I should say, they are doing the thing that kind of you told them to do, but it's not really what you wanted them to do. You kind of at some point just want them to go and smash things with their swords.
I will say though that the fact that they're going to be sitting still and shooting, if you just give them like a fire command, means that you can apply AoE 1 buffs over time really well, similar to what you would want to do with like bodyguarding with some other nations. I
Yeah.
think we talked about this with Arcocephaly.
Yes.
So you can like just
Kind of
recruit a bunch
point
of your
buff them, even though they're like cavalry, which normally you wouldn't think is great for point buffs, but because they're going to stick around for so long.
Yeah, cavalry is actually pretty excellent with point buffs if you are like a nation that just has a lot of like good point buffs to apply. And Masters of the Way can apply all of them. So you can paint
Yep.
these guys with quickness, ethereal, moss body protection, and then with your ancestor smiths, you can stack on the earth buffs on top of that. So like one ancestor smith, like 6 or 7 Masters of the Way, and then a pile of ancestor vessels just sitting there firing. You can get essentially an army of thug killers.
Yeah. So he went east. Let's take a look at his cap circle. Anything notable? One heavy cav and another heavy cav. But this is a heavy cav that's going to be worth it because it's a very valuable farm province. Unfortunately, though, Tianchi does does not have any other farms within like 2, right? Within their kind of square.
They are also cut off to their northwest by the water.
Yeah.
So one of their 2 province out natural like contest points with Atlantis is going to be taken.
Yeah. So just in terms of like luck of this one, now I mean they do have shaman here, which is fantastic, good for them. But nothing really great in their expansion. So this is not a farm, but it just happens to be a very large province.
Yeah, it's just a large province.
Yeah. So a little, I guess, less fortunate in terms of the,
The other thing which is very unlucky for expansion purposes is if you look at the forest section to their to the southeast of where they are now. Those have rivers running across them, so those are water connections. So you can't actually go from one to the other. So the middle one there is functionally a dead end.
You mean
Or not
you mean the one to the more to the southeast here is it?
Yeah, the one that's in the middle of the rivers there.
Yes,
Like once you expand into that, you have to expand into that farm province, which would normally be part of Ulm's natural territory.
And is heavy cav, and by then your starting army, there's no way it's gonna take on like a large heavy cav province.
Yeah, so that's actually a really unfortunate province layout, just in terms of like your expansion path. He could go for that province and just like pick a fight with Ulm, not knowing that it's so well defended. But others, like if he doesn't do that, then those forests are going to be really awkward to capture.
That being said, I think in this situation, like he doesn't know that this is a heavy cav yet, right? So let's say he takes this province, he sees it's heavy cav. Now
he can go north,
yeah, he would go north, or honestly, if he wanted to fight Ulm, he could go in his cap circle here. But like, actually, so one thing, first of all, it's normally if this wasn't Highlands. Oh wait, it's Highlands. Yeah, it hinders movement. Because you're relying on cavalry, you might actually just have the map move to go here directly. But Force and Highlands, it's not going to work. But you could just like start recruiting indie heavy cav, and then later just have a small force take this on because this is archers and militia.
You mean foreign recruit?
Yeah, the foreign recruit. Heavy cav, right? Like just spend a few turns because this is actually not in fact going to be taken by anybody because Ulm is not going to go through 80 heavy cav right anytime soon. So he actually does have time to just come at this later. But
that's true. Yeah, he could treat it as little pocket.
But this is still like an unfortunate layout for him. Anyways, more ancestor vessels. And yeah, we'll see where he goes next. Let's. I've been shifting left, so let's do that. Calum doing the bird thing. So this looks like just starting army. Let me guess. Hold and attack rear. Bloop. Actually, it doesn't kill them all in the first volley. But fortunately, the troops decide to kill the troops and not the commanders. Now he
Well,
does that. Go ahead.
they were routed, so they had to fight them. They were already in melee.
Yeah, at the end they were in melee, but I guess there could have been. Also, he has a prophet here, which adds a lot of killingness. I guess at this point here, they weren't yet routed, right? So I'm wondering, yeah, they could have, but they wouldn't have made it back here anyways. Anyways, classic Calum things.
The other thing is that because he's using a storm general, his commander has higher protection than his troops. So the AI's targeting is going to focus on the troops instead. It's going to focus on those Spirehorn guys.
Aha. So the prophet is a storm general, and he actually did. He actually kept 2 guys on guard commander. It looks like.
Yeah, that's a little bit risky.
Yeah.
Like, it ironically makes it riskier because the AI's targeting is for max damage, so they want to go for the lowest protection units on the field.
So it might have gone for the Spirehorn warrior here.
Right, rather than the Spirehorn warriors in the attacking squad.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at this cap circle. Heavy cav up here, heavy cav over here, and then 3 easier provinces. Now,
Calum is one of the nations that doesn't really mind heavy cav, though, because they can just use the commanders.
Yep. Exactly. So heavy cav, not a problem. Also, like geography, not a huge problem for
Also true.
Calum in general. Now, they don't have... Like, these farms are in Bogarus's kind of sphere of influence. There's a kind of bad farm here. There's a nice, juicy farm down here that they'll have to fight Midgard over. And otherwise, just a pretty... Well, like a couple large provinces here, 17k, 14k. So, and this province is also contested with Tianchi, but also 20k. So they've got like decent enough provinces, and they are recruiting Spirehorn warriors and archers. And you mentioned, and they got a hero here. Do you know what that hero is?
If I recall correctly, he's an Earth 3.
Okay, that's nice. Would you go out site searching with him right away, or would you research?
I think research, at least for the first couple turns. But let me double check what this hero's paths are, because if he has something that's outside of your national spectrum, then he's like a lot more valuable.
Yeah.
So he's Air 3, Earth 3. So those are actually paths that you get in your cat mages anyways. Well, you don't get Earth 3 at least. It's not quite that impressive. He is, like, the hero himself is actually a pretty good thug, though.
Yeah.
Just because he has incredible stats, like really high base attack and defense. So he's very easy, and then he has Awe 4. So between that and his Earth Magic, he's very easy to make just incredibly resilient. And he has a fire plate right at the back, so it's literally like the magic item fire plate that you might even put on him. So all he really needs is a hat, and he's good to go.
I mean, do you like go expand with him? In this situation?
With Calum, probably. Let me think. If I were in Calum's position and I had I already wanted alt for like Earth Meld, I might go ahead and get Stone Skin.
Yeah.
Put a hat on him and send him expanding. Yeah.
That's what you need, right? Just a bit more protection and a hat, and then you're kind of good to go.
Yeah, because he can do Air Shield with no research, and then that and Stone Skin, and he can take on crossbows no problem. With his Awe, he's actually pretty decent against Heavy Cav. He also has like a really good weapon that applies fear on hit. So he can rout a commander squad pretty much instantly by himself.
All right, well, let's see in the next few turns if he does go out to play. All right, Joman has expanded here. So Drummond is using a small squad of 4 cavalry, I guess for an attack rear, and I think they start with the Ashigaru and some samurai archers. And
he
went
is
after.
not.
That wasn't attack rear or.
His samurai archers are set to attack or hold an attack.
Yeah, let me watch that again. Not at super fast forward speed. They're moving. Oh, maybe they were too far.
No, they're in range, or they'll get in range. They're set to attack. Yeah, see?
Yeah.
The short bows are in range. The long bows shoot even further.
Yeah.
The other thing that he is not doing, which some Joman players do as a way of like cheesing expansion with your cavalry, is have an archer set to fire and keep distance to serve as a lure, in order to pull the Indies away from your cavalry to make sure that they can actually get to the command.
Mm-hmm.
The way that he's doing it is a little bit different. I don't know whether or not this is something that they are doing intentionally after testing, but they are having their their like disparate squads all get into melee at about the same time. So they might have just been going for that and like aiming for the surround instead of trying to cheese the commanders.
The timing isn't, but the timing wasn't perfect. Like the archers,
It's not perfect.
The archers were too far back. I don't know if that was a mistake. Like should have been like fire, right? I
think using the archers in melee is intentional. Like that's pretty clear. The cavalry, I don't know if they were set to attack closest or not. But yeah, stuff isn't hitting at quite the same time, but they're only in combat for like one round before everything else closes in.
Yeah.
So the timing's not awful. It's just odd.
Yeah. But see, like empirically, the archers did not actually do anything because every time the Eshiguru
They got
were always
stuck behind the Ashigaru.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I feel like, and honestly, the archers, like the samurai
archers, they got
archers,
some kills. They got 5.
Yeah, they got 5. Like they have 15 protection. You kind of want them tanking and not these guys, right? So I feel like I put these further.
Yeah, you at least want them all fighting together.
Yeah, like they have the same map move. I guess I don't see, if this was deliberate, I don't see why you wouldn't put them on the line with these guys.
It's just weird. I think that like the norm for using the cavalry is for like attack rear shenanigans.
Now, to be fair, this was Wolf Tribe, so pretty much anything was going to work.
Yes, also true.
So maybe
we're probably greatly overanalyzing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's take a look. Horse Tribe. We haven't seen a lot of that.
Those are very dangerous.
Yeah, heavy infantry down here. This. I mean, obviously the lake is crucial for Joman, but it does kind of sometimes mess up your expansion pattern, right? With the geography. But
and he's not going to get it until turn 12 or plus.
But aside from the Horse Tribe, this is a pretty forgiving indie types all around. He looks like he's got Zots here if he wants, although Patala might contest him for that.
So though that Zots province has a very high income. It has some sort of site.
Yeah.
Or no, it just has really high population. That is an extremely valuable province.
That is rare. That's pretty rare.
The other thing is, if that's a large province, then that means it has extra sites in addition to having extra income. And caves also have very high site incidence. So that's an extremely valuable province for gem income too.
Yeah. Good luck there for Joman. And all right, he's recruiting more Ashigarus. Interesting.
So the one thing that they are doing right is that they're using their fort turns to make mages. Generally with Joman and like many other nations where you don't need priests to lead your units, you want to be recruiting indie commanders and cycling them back to your caps so that you can keep recruiting wizards. And he's actually doing that.
Yeah. Good for him. Okay, let's shift left to Ulm. Ulm has expanded with his starting army, and I guess he recruited Zweihanders.
Yeah, he said that he bid like 240 on those shipwreckers, which is not nearly enough.
which
but he
is
also reduced his starting army recruitment as
yeah.
a result. He went for those instead of rangers. But to be fair, Spyhinders are solid expanders.
Yeah, and also he had this. He had a militia province, that he could expand into. And actually, so Zweihander is doing nothing the entire fight.
Yeah.
Literally, I don't think they've had a single attack go off. Oh, there we go. He
Well,
actually
one of them did, but
one of them did. Like they got 2 kills. Good job, guys. Yeah, so they were not needed for this fight, but anyways,
he'd also mentioned that they were starting with the wolf summoners
yeah.
and using those to get a chaff screen for their crossbows,
Hmm.
which is a Dom 4 tactic.
Hmm.
Back when crossbows were way better because stuff sat still and let you shoot at them,
Yeah.
the Ranger expansion was actually really good, and you typically only needed to stall for like a round or two. So you could use wolves and basically just cycle them. So like you basically just replace your chaff screen every
Hmm.
other fight. Now the Rangers are a lot less deadly, so you can still do it, but it's
You
a lot
can,
harder.
yeah, it takes like a larger amount to get like a few devastating volleys in to get a route
Yeah, and
going
you really
early.
need that critical mass when you're not using a front line.
Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately for him, he's got like mainly heavy cav to the north. Then he's got. Oh, this is. Is this an unclickable province? Yeah. I think we fix this later. See, there's like an unclickable province here, province 0.
Um,
Or am I
uh,
right? We don't have a scout there for some reason.
no, I can click it. It's number 98. If you type it into the top, you might be able to get to it.
Yeah. Okay. That is odd. I actually remember. So Lucy mentioned there was a problem with the map, and it was around Ulm, so I thought that might be it.
Oh,
Anyways,
yeah.
heavy infantry, okay, light infantry. So pretty forgiving cap circle, and there's a farm up here.
The throne at 127 is also a very easy pop type. The Vineman throne
Oh
with the
yeah,
Lore Master there, you can clear that with like size 3 fire elementals. It's very
yeah,
easy.
that is easy.
Um,
And not that. Well, actually, he would know it because he has spies. But this is a golden throne, which is very nice.
he has an Animus throne to his south as well, which is even easier because unlike the Lore Master, can't even do elementals. That one does
Hmm.
only bugs. So that's another one that you can clear with just fire elementals. That one, yeah. So the reason that those thrones are so easy is basically just because you can HP route them because the Vinemen and Boars have
So
such a
much
high
HP.
HP
Yeah.
ratio, right? And they kill themselves really quickly on fire shields.
Hmm.
So even the small fire elementals can just wipe them out.
Yeah. And even heavy cavalries with their hoofs are gonna kind of melt themselves
They'll
too.
die to that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Now this is the super rich area we mentioned earlier that Vedi High might be going for. So he might be contested going down here. We'll see.
Oh yeah. And no one wants to give away thrones like that.
Yeah. So more like there's actually, although his cap circle only had the one heavy cav, I'm seeing like a lot more heavy cav provinces out here. But honestly, Alm with the cheap rangers can do pretty well against heavy cav if they just have some chaff in front. He recruited, he recruited rangers. All right, we'll see where he goes next. Okay, and Tianchi, we're back to the start, and we have one more row to go through. Let's go up to Atlantis. So Atlantis had an awake expander.
Do you go for land or the water if for
I
starting out?
I think you go land because nobody else. You can, like the water is in your pocket, right?
Right.
So I think
I
you
was just
go grab
thinking.
land. But
Yeah, I
let's
like
let's
starting
look
my
at this
first.
layout. Yeah.
I like starting my first fort underwater.
Hmm.
As
Yeah.
Atlantis because one, no one can take it, so you have essentially an unsiegeable source of income. So
Yeah.
like you have something that prevents you from being shut down by an early alpha strike. And then your better wizards are underwater, so if you have the luxury of doing that, it lets you get your research going a little bit faster.
Now, in this layout, where would you want your first underwater fort?
And you put forts on everything. For the first fort,
Yeah.
um,
Right, because
I
like
think
you're only going to have gold on turn whatever to build your first fort, right? So
yeah,
you could plan your expansion to just go grab, like you can go use the awake to define your land borders, and then just dip underwater before you build your first fort, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's very fair. Yeah. Um, I think that your first fort is going to be either 136 or 131.
So 136 is over here, and 131 over
Or I mean,
there.
you could do 162, but it's a little bit further. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea is that you want something that's like you don't want it to be in your cap circle, and you
Mm-hmm.
do want it to be like kind of a better striking point, like
Mm-hmm.
something where you can like mass mages that you would actually deploy.
Yeah. So in this case, you could like his expansion here, could allow him to like claim like he could go for these two provinces, define the borders advantageously against Bogarus, and then
And
go
then go into the water.
underwater, right?
Yeah.
And here he's expanded with. Well, I guess it's just a starting army. But what did he recruit? He recruited Mournfuls.
Yeah, I think you start with those just because of the resource cost.
Oh, what did he have? So he has. Oh,
Oh no,
he
he
no
has
no.
his sacreds, and the mournfuls.
So I think you start with the Seal Hunters and the Snow Warriors, right?
Right.
And then he recruited Mournfuls and Sacreds.
So yeah, I think that's just a resource thing. Like generally, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to want to have your ice infantry, of one kind or another.
Mm-hmm.
But those are very high res costs. You need some of your cap circle to really get them in quantity. Now that he's got two though, two cap circle provinces, you can definitely start switching over to them.
Yeah. And let's see what this fight was. So he's just going for a big blob. Oh, it's like 10 infantry. Okay, it's not really worth watching. Everything has the same speed. Charge, javelin. They have javelins, right? No, harpoons.
Harpoons, yeah, better javelins.
Yep. All right, good for them. Actually, it's worth mentioning they're very good because this allows you to take heavy cav with a lot less risk. And yeah, he's recruiting Mournfuls.
Yeah, I assume he switches over to the normal guys though. That's just for the resource constraint in the super early game.
So we got a heavy cav here, but heavy cav here, heavy cav here. So it's heavy cav city, but the harpoons, geez, every province over here has heavy cav.
Yeah, that's going to be a story.
That's more heavy cav here. Okay, so far the ratio of heavy cav to non-heavy cav provinces is greater than 1 in his like 2x2 square. That's pretty funny. Okay, I'm seriously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's heavy infantry. I might have misread that. Still, that's a crazy amount of heavy cav. Although, like I said, harpoons can fix a lot of problems, so I'm actually not too worried for him. Atlantis is a good nation, but that is a
he'll
lot
be
of heavy
fine.
cav. Yeah. Two nice farm provinces here. Let's just take a quick look. Anything else? Nice
Yeah,
border
Atlantis
province
always
here.
lands on its feet. The one issue that Atlantis can run into in the early game is not getting enough resources.
Hmm.
But it's on a nuke map. That's basically not an issue.
Yeah, you're always guaranteed to have like some like mountain or forest type things. Now, in this case, he actually only has one. It is a mountain forest.
Yeah, on some maps where you have like only 3 connections or something along those lines, it's a lot rougher. Um,
Yeah,
but Map
he'll
Nuke
be
is very
fine.
generous with resources. Yeah,
It's Atlantis. He'll be fine.
yeah, Atlantis always lands on its feet.
Yeah. All right, Bogarus has expanded.
And they did go for the Eparchs.
Yes, looks like they went Eparchs and their heavy cav. Which is kind of mediocre-ish heavy cav. I mean, it's a fine unit. It's just like compared to other nations' heavy cav.
And they went
It's
for the penetration bonus bless.
yeah. Let's take a look at the bless here. MR, pen, and magic. So pure astral,
Yeah,
right?
so the
This looks like an astral. Well, 4, 5, 6, right?
yeah, so the Word of Power is only 10 damage, so it's not quite as good as the Blood Smite, but it does paralyze or have an
It,
MR negate
and
paralyze
it's
effect.
and it's 100 range.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely one of my favorite. It's something that people don't think a lot about or don't think enough about is which like if you have access to holy threes, but everybody has a prophet, so you kind of should think about it. Is part of your pretender design is what is your smite going to be, and what is your whatchamacallit,
Your banishment.
going to be, right? Because some of them are really good and some of them are just garbage. And so in this case, he went astral, which is one of the stronger ones for sure, and definitely appropriate for eparchs. Yeah, and then
That is an insanely greedy build, though.
the astral 6. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
but it's pure scales, so like I think
Astral 6 pure scales. Yep, that's playing for the late game, as they say.
yeah,
Lucid does a lot of diplomacy, though, so he might think he can get away with it by just diploing his way into favorable early wars.
but also to be fair, like Boger, like so Bogarus is weak early, right? But well, Bogarus can be weak in a few stages, but like it's not like you're gonna go for you can't rely on your sacreds, right? You're not Bogarus sacreds
No,
are not a thing, right? So like, what's gonna save you in the first war if it's not a Titan,
wait,
right?
researcher.
Right. Yeah. So exactly, that's the alternative. Is the awake researcher, right? So it's either awake researcher to really get those early kind of point buffs up, but they're going for the alternative, which is we're just going to get a bunch of eparchs, and like because the eparchs kind of kill. They deal with like the awake or the Titan or the like elite sacreds type of threats, right? So I guess the only thing they're worried about is like, what if somebody comes at us with a really strong, well buffed army? I guess is the main threat. They're
Or
not going to be.
Calum. Calum could just run at them.
Yeah, but what does your awake researcher get you against Calum?
You get luck and protection.
All right.
You can also do something with size 3 elementals, which isn't perfect, but
Mm-hmm.
if they're using the Raptorians, it can do some stuff.
Yeah.
It gives you options, basically. Like, you can explore different magic that you can try.
So so in this
Some of
case, oh, go
your...
ahead.
Yeah, so, like, basically, you're not looking at using your... you're not looking at using Ethereal
Mm-hmm.
against the, like, magic weapon
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
But, like, Lucky Drugina are fine. And you have some decent options with your fire mages, so you can defend yourself with some early magic. Some of that stuff might come up like early enough anyways, but just because Masters of Names are incredible. But
Yeah.
when
I
you're using
was.
eparchs, you're not recruiting them.
That's true. So also we see they might get a few eparchs to help with expansion. They're actually very good against heavy cav, right? When you're expanding.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then in a few turns they might go to mages. And it might also be so they might not know who. Obviously, they don't know who their neighbors are yet. And it might be a thing where it's like, well, I hope we don't neighbor Calum, and if we do, like, let's Diplo.
They know that they neighbor Atlantis,
That's true.
and they are running cold scales, so Atlantis can also just run at them.
Um,
Raga, if they go for just like a bunch of Saravan guards,
mhm.
can handle eparchs fine. Like those are actually both examples where some early magic would be really effective. Vanheim, I think, is the only one that wouldn't necessarily want to run at them, just because their units are all very expensive, and they don't have the best MR. Like, their MR is fine, but not like for their gold cost.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, I think all three of Bogarus's other neighbors can win an early 1v1.
Except that's kind of true about most nations against Bogarus.
Also true, and that's why I
So,
think that you would like generally want to consider a more defensive build,
yeah,
or like I should put defensive in square quotes, a build that lets you fight early, and then
yeah.
that can even potentially let you be the aggressor.
Well, let's see how it turns out. A lot also depends, how successful your expansion is also influences a lot, like whether you're going to be dealing with early wars or not.
Yes, 100%.
So, a build that gets you those provinces solidly in your control is defensive in that it stops people from wanting to attack you, right? Even if it's not actually like if you got attacked, it wouldn't be good, but because you got that early expansion out early, you don't want to fight your neighbors for those border provinces. You already got them, right? And you kind of de facto have borders already. So we'll have to see how that turns out for them.
Yeah, and then the
Let's.
other side of like a good expansion is the earlier your infrastructure is, the earlier you start amassing those mages and units.
So it looks like they have a pretty easy cap circle. A lot of farms up here, although they're not like massive. Oh, that's a nice big province. Oh, actually, so they discover this soon too, but they have the steel ovens here, which is an amazing sight.
They
So
have steel ovens on a 229 income province. That is fantastic.
yep, this is. So I guess spoilers,
And
but
that's
I remember them mentioning that they got this, so clearly they must expand here at some point. I don't know when, but I remember
and
that.
75
Yeah,
resources. Yeah, that is like a fantastic first fort.
yeah, for sure. So, and then
Of course, if Atlantis or Calum learn about that, they have every motivation to go want to
yeah,
take it from them.
exactly. And nothing else too much, I guess, to mention in their cap circles. They're recruiting, yeah, heavy cav, I would assume. Good for them. Okay, and Raga did Zayadan things, heavy infantry.
One Ziodan.
That's like all you can afford, right?
Yes. Those boys
They're
are very
so
expensive.
expensive. And as a reminder, oh, we didn't actually see their exact bliss. I don't recall. Magic weapons: shock 15, poison 5, fire 10, defense 2, undying 8, blood surge 3, larger.
It's worth pointing out that by being larger and shock resistant, they're immune to air elementals. So
Mm.
if someone like Jomin wanted to protect itself with that as their first magic,
Hmm.
or Bogarus for that matter, that they become extremely juicy targets.
Yeah. Now they have garbage MR. Let's be
Also, yes,
let's be
yes,
real.
100%.
There's a glaring weakness here. So like I feel this is like super strong against like half the nations in this game, and like super weak against the other half. I feel right.
Mhm. Yeah, once they have to go into like Paralyze or Soul Slay, they're in trouble.
Yeah. Or like eparchs, like we were saying, right? Like that
Yeah, the
is
Paralyze Smite is actually going to be very useful
it's actually
against
going
them.
to be really good here. But still, I mean, they're still Zayadans, right? So against in many matchups, they're going to do very well. Um, and for expansion, obviously, they're going to do very well. So I think this is just attack rear.
Yeah, it is interesting that they went for magic weapons over magic resistance, because that plus 3 MR from the Bless makes a huge difference.
It's one of those sacred because MR is like even more valuable on the elite troops, right? So that does seem like a problem. Not for expansion though. This is going to go swimmingly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but magic weapons also doesn't factor into expansion.
Yes, yes, exactly. Not so. Okay, so that goes well. Let's see. They have Deer Tribe, and so pretty easy cap circle, and I'm not seeing anything too remarkable. In fact, seems like a pretty poor chunk of land. I'm not seeing like I see one wealthy province up here,
Yeah, I
and
guess the
that
only
is
thing worth
it.
mentioning is that they have a water province in their natural territory, which means that they're basically just -1 province. Um, and Patala could take that with Nagas if they feel like recruiting some of
Yeah,
those.
there's actually really like they actually only have one province that's over 10k in their whole kind of zone,
Well, I guess they have to kill someone and take their provinces then.
which I guess is what you do with Theodens. So good luck to them. Okay, and finally, we saved the best for last. So spoilers.
Oh, this is a disaster.
This is about to be really bad. So let's see. I looked at this and I was like, why did you do this? So they went with their awake expander, which last episode you didn't like this chassis because you didn't feel it was very it kind of died to things.
Yeah, this thing has
But
12 protection.
but like even if you took a chassis that's super beefy, you don't send it against 50 barbarians, right? You don't.
A Dracon with Heartskin could do this, but that's about it.
Okay.
That's a bit of an extreme example.
Yeah, that's yeah, no, that's true. That is a true statement. And also not okay, so not only that, but it's like charging in head. Okay. This is how many rounds does it last?
Yeah, I mean, it goes up to 19 prot when it's Berserk, but that's not enough.
Well, it's too late. It's already at like it's at half HP. There goes another chunk. And like there's not really an amount of like luck that could have gone better that would have made this successful. Like this was not even close, right?
Yeah, no. The other thing is, I think he just straight up sent the wrong commander. I think that the Bull was supposed to go where the Prophet went solo, and the Prophet was supposed to go with that party.
Oh, well that's fair. Well, this prop okay, yeah.
Like, if you look at where the Prophet suicided, so the Prophet has a very normal script for if he's going to support an army, right? Like, he's just casting
geez.
Smite.
Yeah.
But, like, that province, the Bull could have handled that province, no problem. And between
that has
Smite,
to be it.
yeah, like, I think he just swapped the commanders.
That has to be it. I mean, that's a devastating mistake, but yeah, I can't imagine somebody deliberately sending. Although, okay, but hang on. Why would you send 16 hell archers and 12 soldiers and a prophet against barbarians?
I don't think it's enough. Like, I think that you would definitely need another turn of archer recruitment. But archers against barbarians is actually correct.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. Now, so okay, possibly his scout report was like 10 barbarians. No, well, it can't be because there's actually 60, so the lowest it could be is 30, right?
Yeah, so if he saw 30 or 40 barbarians, and he figures I can take that with archers and smite, and I can just whittle them down enough while they massacre my starting soldiers. And because I'm
Yeah.
Plaguera, I'm not really going to be relying on these starting soldiers that much anyways. So he can take the attrition, either kill the barbarians or reduce them down to a small enough number that his Mouflons or Cyclops, whichever of the two he chooses as his like primary expansion force, can then clear it later. If he takes it, great. He can send his starting army back in, re-up, and then go somewhere else. If he doesn't, no problem. He's not really going to be able to expand with those guys anyways, and they don't even necessarily synergize all that well with the troops that he does want to recruit. So it's not a huge loss to throw them away to clear out that province.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, his Bull is there getting him some additional resources. So even if he can't take an additional province with his starting army this turn, next turn he can clear out those barbs and then get enough resources to continue expanding comfortably.
But do you not think that he could have guaranteed gotten one of these light infantry provinces with that starting army with Mr.
No,
Smite?
Flagra starting army is really bad.
It is really bad.
You don't even know. Like, no, you can't send that starting army to reliably clear essentially any province
Anything
type
at
other
all.
than like Deer Tribe or like Militia.
Yeah.
Like anything beyond that, you need like 2 turns of recruitment. So like you start expanding with your starting army at like turn 4, which is bad.
Yeah.
So doing something with that instead, I think, is okay. But I don't see Mouflons or Cyclops in his capital either.
No, it's archers.
More archers. So that's bad. That's not going to help.
Yeah, but maybe he was thinking about the barbs, right? Like finish clearing them
If you're
up.
going to be building up extra archers to clear the barbarian province, then you should wait for those extra archers.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, not very consistent. So I'm gonna assume, like you suggested, that this was where the bull was supposed to go. So this is a tragic mistake, and Faligra's in a really rough position now. Do they have great land to be sad about that they're not going to expand to? It's not the worst. Yeah, I'm seeing quite a few fairly wealthy provinces all around. So if one day they can start expanding, they'll have nice land to expand into.
The other problem, like aside from the fact that they're
Sy
going to be
Hydra.
super behind from
Yeah.
this, like 4 turns plus behind, Flagra does not have good priests.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Um. In fact, like they have the worst, right? What do they
Yeah,
have?
so they have their cap only slow to recruit guys are priest ones or priest twos, and
Yeah.
then their regular priests are priest ones. The priest one guys do at least reduce unrest, so they're okay to have around, but they're not useful for anything really. Like you since you don't do blood hunting or anything like, and you're not having them bless sacreds, you generally don't like use these guys for literally anything other than building temples and calling back your god.
Hmm. I mean, in this extreme case, though, I guess you'd recruit a bunch of these because you'd use them to lead your troops around. They have Taskmaster, they have Leadership 40. Like you'd use this as your commanders. Normally you
The,
wouldn't, but in this case maybe you do because you need to have them around to call your god back.
I don't think you can because they're vulnerable to getting sniped, and this is LA, and there's a lot of like long range crossbows.
Yeah,
So it's the same like targeting thing that we were talking about with
because
Calum.
they're so. Hmm. Hmm.
Because these guys, like all of your troops are armored, like even the archers have at least something.
Yeah, yeah.
So this priest is always going to be preferentially targeted anytime that he's in range.
This is just bad. Like there's this feels so bad. Um, I hope they can find a way out of this. I guess your priority now is getting like resources up so you can start getting like cyclopes, right?
Yeah, either them,
And
or, yeah, or the mouflons. Like I think you lean mouflons now because they're a little bit less resource intensive.
yeah, and this
The
is
nice,
still the go-to province, I think, because it's so easy. You cleared some of it out, and it's your only like it's a mountain. All these other ones are plains, so I guess you
yeah,
still go here.
he did go for the two highest resource provinces.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but unfortunately, with the wrong troops.
Yes. Yeah. So
Go ahead.
with Cyclops, the upside is basically that you don't lose them. So your expansion parties like stay at full strength as they like keep clearing more and more stuff.
Hmm.
So that means that you end up with like as basically as big of an army as you can possibly be left with at the end of
Hmm.
expansion phase, and that's really nice. Um, the downside though is that because they cost 67 resources, they're very hard to get that critical mass going. Whereas the Mouflons at 47, I mean, yeah, that's still pretty high. Um, but like it lets you get enough so that like you can at least like get going to get those first provinces, even if you do take some losses while you're doing so.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. Well, that is a tragic and depressing note to end this episode on the tragic fate of the Filigra Awake Expander. But we've covered every nation, all the expansions. Um, oh, are there any? Actually, I believe that we're going to see some of this, but I believe Joman is doing assassination as well. Um, at
Oh,
least
ninja expansion. Good on him.
yeah, and because the one thing that we can't see are assassination battles, and so I believe I remember briefly seeing like a ninja attack a province and winning it like at a turn that I looked at. So I know that's happening a bit. I don't know if it's happening right away, but that is something to keep in mind for Joman. Um, do we have any other assassins?
Vadiaheim can, but they typically don't.
Yeah, they typically don't. Ulm has spies, but not assassins. I think that's it. So, anyways, that's something to keep in mind. Um, does Bogarus have assassins? Their weird sacred guys
Um,
are stealthy, but I
no,
don't think
they're
they're
they're just
assassins.
stealthy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
they're stealthy.
they
All
have
right.
summonable assassins, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, summon. All right. Well, that's gonna be it. We are taking our time, but it's enjoyable because we're kind of analyzing all the scripting. Obviously, as the turns go on and we have large battles and more epic wars, we won't have the luxury of going in such depth. But it is the early game, so we can do that. So we'll keep doing that. So thank you once again for joining me, Sai.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.